Welcome to episode 400 of Pure Hustle Podcast. I'm Mike.
And this is Orlando, and we have reached kind of like, it's not as important as 500 would be, but to me, 400 is up there. Like that.
I know, but you could do that with anything, right? Like you could be like 500 is not as important as 1,000 would be. You know, like
true.
Like you got to celebrate the victories when you get them, man. And I mean, this is a victory.
We are the second longest running reselling podcast out there. There's only Scavenger Life ahead of us. And I think Scavenger Life, they ended somewhere in the 400s. So, we're going to get there eventually. And if, somehow things pick up for us and we end up recording 2 a week, we'll make it in no time. But I'm not sure we're going to go to 2 a week maybe like at the end of the summer. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
We'll see how things pick up.
One thing to consider, though, with that is there's a whole set of episodes that aren't even part of this numbered series. We've got little mini-sodes, especially that drop on YouTube exclusively. So if you haven't gone over and subscribed to YouTube, go ahead and do that because every Monday we drop an episode, short, 10, 15, 20 minutes long. You don't want to miss those. But today is an update episode, and we love our update episodes because it's our opportunity to talk about what's going on in our life, reselling-wise, what's going on in the reselling world in general, give you the spicy bolos, those things that you need to be picking up when you're out and about at garage sales, thrift stores, on Facebook Marketplace, all the places, and really just kind of talk about this reselling, all the things that we care about. So, man, Orlando, how's it going?
Oh, you want to start with me? I was thinking we should start with you, but it's okay. We'll start here. And by the way, I think Scavenger Life had 580 episodes, so we still got a long road to go, but we'll get there. So I'll start with the bad, and then we'll go with the good. This is what I don't like. What I don't like is I think people have high expectations of us that we're going to be like gurus. Like we're going to always talk about how things are incredible, how sales are next level. And I always want to remind people, like, we document our journey, right? If you listen to our podcast, like episodes like 0 through like 200, it's like the golden era of reselling, right? We started in 2018 through like 2021. Things were spectacular. Then you go to the second half of Pure Hustle Podcast, and the tone starts changing a little bit, right? There's ups and downs. There's weeks where things are phenomenal, and then there's times where it's like, oh man, like I don't know how much longer we can keep reselling. So for me, this last month was the most difficult month of reselling I would say I've ever had as a full-time reseller. My sales were down 44% compared to the previous 30 days. That's a big deal, right? Meaning that I actually had to pull money out of savings to pay the rent. I had to pull money out of savings to pay some other bills. And on top of that, just to be real, if you have children, as they get older, they don't get cheaper. Senior year, I was talking to my son the other day, I would say the last 2 months of my son's senior year, there was at least $3,000 in unexpected expenses. Now, a couple of them could have been avoided. One was like a car accident. I had to take care of something there. But other things were like paying for a trip here or paying for, a tuxedo here and paying for this here. And so on top of all the regular things I had to pay for, I also had that happen. And so put that all together, it's a perfect storm with the 44% drop in sales. Now, if you haven't listened to our podcast recently, the reason I believe I had the 44% drop is because I listened to eBay advice from the eBay ads event, and no hate on them. I think they were doing what they felt was in my best interest based on what was presented to them in a short amount of time. You have to understand, I tell this to people all the time, if you're watching somebody on YouTube or you're listening to eBay for Business or something, they may be giving you good advice, but that good advice may not necessarily apply to you. It maybe applies on the general, right? So one of the things they had said is that my ads, I was paying too much in ads. I had removed the cap from my dynamic ad rate, and they told me to do fixed rate 5% across the board. The moment I did that, my sales tanked, and they tanked for 2 weeks. And so that 44% dip is because of those 2 weeks. And then when I went back to normal, and which normal for me was dynamic ad rates, no cap, Not like the kids say no cap on my dynamic ad rates. My sales started slowly climbing back. And it's kind of like you're playing catch up, right? I have to make up for that lost money, right? Whenever you lose money in anything, right? Money has to come from somewhere. There's nothing as free, right? Whether it's free shipping, whether it's, you're giving somebody a discount on something, whatever it is, somebody's paying for it. You're paying for it. The buyer's paying for it. And it's the same thing in reselling. Whenever there's those dips, it's not like those dips just go away and, I just had a rough month. It'll be okay the next month. No, you're playing catch up, right? So you have to be very careful with those. And so I've just been dealing with the ramifications of that. It was a very costly lesson. People had asked me on social media, what are your thoughts on ending the store and restarting it? And I'm like, no, I'm not doing any experiments. Like, I'm done. I just can't. As a full-time seller, I can't play these games. Like, I played it once and it cost me thousands of dollars, and I just can't play that game again. So, it's a learning experience. I strongly encourage everyone that listens, whether you're part-time or you're full-time, just remember any drastic moves that you make on your eBay store, whether it is, going full on, ending all promoted listings, or whether you end up ending every item and doing so similar, anything crazy like that, it's going to have a major impact on your sales. So be really careful with doing those kind of things.
Real quick, Orlando, before we move on, sorry, this is a little bit of inside baseball here, but can you just double check that your the mic that is coming through on the recording is the correct mic? You're coming in a little bit quiet. I could probably fix it in post, but I just want to make sure you've got the right mic on.
I will check. So that's kind of where I'm at. No, I'm on the right mic.
All right,
do you want me to adjust my volume a little bit?
Not too much.
Okay.
Hopefully it'll come through once I edit. We're all good here. Speaking of inside baseball, I see on the notes here you had something baseball related.
Yeah, but that's later. That's our Bolo. Oh no. Sorry. Yeah, I did. Oh, good call. Nice transition. Sorry, I missed that one. I totally dropped the ball.
I'm trying to have a smooth transition there, and then there you are, dropping the easy pop fly.
There you go. Do you want to know the only time I ever was on television for playing high school sports was when I dropped the ball at first base? Like it was like the worst. Like I couldn't wait. Like the TV crews were out there. I was in high school, and the ball got thrown, and it's like it's going to Orlando at first. Obviously, they're calling by my last name, and they're like, and Orlando fumbles the ball at first, and that's the only time.
Man, that's your 15 minutes of fame, man.
I've been traumatized ever since. Anyways, all right. So speaking of baseball, so let's talk about the exciting. Like this is exciting. What happened? So went to garage sales like normal. Got up super late. I was all these school events, like they just go on and on and on. So I got home pretty late and I slept in a little bit. I didn't go to garage sales till like 8 something in the morning. I always tell people though, even if you wake up late, you should still go out to garage sales. Like you just never know. So I went out and I ended up at this garage sale where it's somebody that's a reseller, right? Well, what are some giveaways, Mike? What do you think are some giveaways that it's a reseller?
At a garage sale?
Yeah, a garage sale.
So the person who's selling is a reseller?
Yeah, or let me be more specific. They sell at a flea market.
Oh yeah, okay. I mean, so you're gonna have lots of like of quantity items, right? So like 20 shampoo bottles and 10 of these, and they're all kind of like set up in on tables. Yeah, so it almost looks like you're at a swap meet booth.
Yes. And then not only that, there's those bins, but not the Costco bins, but the ones that like fold closed.
Yeah.
Like with the flaps. Like that's to me, that is the biggest dead giveaway that you're at a reseller's garage sale if they have a lot of them. So I go to this place and I'm going through and I find, it's pretty cool. I found these old San Diego Padres, like rally signs. I don't know if you know what rally signs are, but at baseball games, like you hold them up and it's like, here in San Diego, Tony Gwynn's a big deal. So people have like signs that go like Tony's Town, or when Trevor Hoffman would pitch, they'd be like, bring Trevor out, whatever it is. It would just be something like that. So I bought a bunch of those for $2 and I sold one of them for $30 overnight. And I was like, oh, sweet. Well, as I'm looking around, I'm like, this has to be a reseller. And so I see a trailer there, and I see the lady there and her friend, and I go, you guys have a really eclectic amount of stuff. Like you got stuff to make beads, you got random baseball stuff, you have DVDs, CDs, like all this craziness. I said, are you guys resellers? They're like, oh no, my parents used to buy storage units. And I was like, oh wow, that's crazy. That's so do you guys have what happened? They're like, well, they passed away a while ago, and we're just trying to offload a lot of their stuff. And I was like, oh man, that's crazy. So what are you talking about? They're like, oh, we got a lot of stuff there. What are you looking for? And I said, well, I like a lot of collectible stuff, and I never say specifically what, because usually when you're specific, people go, oh, we don't have that. I just say collectible because that can mean anything to anybody. And they're like, oh yeah, we have a bunch of baseball card boxes. If you ever want to stop by, we're at this location. We'll be there actually today at 11 o'clock. And I was like, all right, I'll take you up on it. So I was only planning to go if it was a slow day. Well, it was a slow morning because I got up late. So I went and grabbed breakfast, and I show up at this place. And when I show up to this place, this is a long story, by the way, Mike, so feel free to interject whenever you want because it's a good story. So I show up to this location, and I see another guy in a car parked right by the storage unit. And I'm like, who is this guy? Like, is this guy another buyer? Like, what? I thought it was going to be a private pick. So I wait there, and I'm about to leave, and sure enough, I see this vehicle drive up, and then I see this guy follow the vehicle. I'm like, that must be them. So I follow along, and sure enough, it was them. I know, kind of stalkerish, but they told me to stop by. So I stop by, and I see this guy get out, and I get out, and the guy keeps staring at me, and I'm like, I don't, like, hey man, like, what, I don't know what to tell this guy. And I see the two gals, and I'm like, hey, you said to be here at 11. They're like, oh yeah, hey, that's cool, you're here. And then they said, but you need to wait a little bit. There's this guy here that we talked to before, and he wants to look at the units. And I was like, oh man. So they actually made me work. I mean, not made me work. They made me wait.
They made you work? They're like, you're going to have to sweep out this unit while you wait.
I did work. I'll explain that in a little bit. So they made me wait, and I said, okay. And they're like, can you give us 10 minutes? I'm like, sure. So I went to my car, and I sat down, and I'm just on my car, just, researching, because I took a bunch of pictures of the storage unit while I was standing there, and I was just researching, seeing what was there. And I'm like, wow, there's some pretty good things in there. There was some boxes for an old, is it Calexico? I forget what it was, the old video game system. Whatever. There was that box there. There was, I saw some baseball cards in there. I saw some signed baseballs in there. So I'm like, all right, there could be good stuff here. So I sit in the car, and I see the guy going to his car, and I get out of my car, and he turns around and looks at me, and I ask him, I said, hey, so did you find anything interesting? He's like, oh, I'm probably going to buy both storage units. And I was like, oh, this guy's probably telling me to, like, scram, right? Like, he's buying it all. So I was like, oh, that's cool. That's great that you're buying both. And so I just sat in my car, and then he left. And I was like, what? I thought he was buying both storage units. So then the two gals come up to my car, and they're like, hey, do you want to come check out some stuff? And I was like, what? Sure. Had I listened to him and just rolled out, I would have never had this opportunity. And so I end up going inside the storage unit, and there was boxes upon boxes upon boxes with like 1 inch thick of dust. Okay. They're like the banana boxes. You know what I'm talking about? The banana boxes?
Yeah.
They're really sturdy.
Yep.
So I open one of them, and it's junk wax galore. Like, 90s. Like, it's terrible. Those cards, like, they are the most worthless things, like, in the world. Like, I don't know if anything. But
it's
more
amazing.
Worthless.
It's amazing, though, if you're at a garage sale or thrift stores, a lot of times people want a ton of money for them.
I know. So I'm going through this, and I ask them, like, how long can I stay here? And they said, well, we'll give you an hour. You can just go through this for an hour. And so I go in there, and it's, 90 degrees in there. I'm not a small guy, so I'm like, it's like sauna for me. But I'm like, I got to make this happen. So I just start pulling boxes. And sure enough, I find a bunch of good cards. I find some late 90s basketball cards. My way of determining whether cards are valuable or not is just by names, right? So if I see a Michael Jordan card, I'm just gonna pull it, right? So I just started grabbing whatever, anything that wasn't a card saver, a top loader, anything that was preserved, I just started grabbing it all. And I said, hey, can I, am I just looking? Like, is that guy really going to buy both units? They're like, you know what? Just go grab a box and just make a small pile for yourself. I was like, are you sure? Like, they're like, sure. I was like, what? So I just
sucks for that guy.
Well, I don't know what happened.
That deal.
I don't know what happened, but I'm like, all right. So no one has ever seen Orlando move as fast as he moved in that hour. So I'm like pulling boxes. I'm like grabbing cards. I'm looking. I see a Kobe. I see a Jordan. I see a Bird. I see, and then I see all these old vintage baseball cards, and I'm just grabbing as much as I can. And so the time passed. I'm like, oh. And then I had the tough decision. Do I just offer to buy, there was like, I don't know, 15 to 20 boxes. Do I just offer to buy all the boxes? I kind of was hesitant because in that entire time, I actually was able to pull down, I think, like 13 of the boxes, and I only had loaded up like 2 boxes, right? Because the other boxes, like they had binders, and you open up the binders, and it's 90s junk wax, 90s junk wax, 90s junk wax. And I was like, I don't know if I want to, I don't know. So I just decided not to. And they have my contact info. So anyways, we get to the end of the time, and I had 2 boxes full, and they're looking through it. And in my head, I'm like, I'm willing to pay a good amount. Like, I'm pretty sure I'm going to make my money back in there. And they're like, what about $60? And I was like, okay, I can do $60. Like, that was way less than I anticipated.
Did you try and haggle him down even more?
No. 60 was golden. Like, I was not going to. No, because I wanted to buy some more, right? Like, I didn't want to end my opportunity to buy more, right? So I let them give me the number, and I was going to pay whatever number they gave me at that time. So I bought it, and, that's the first part of the treasure hunt. So then I go home, and sure enough, I find some Upper Deck Michael Jordans that are pretty mint in there. I found some other like Super Bowl, memorabilia that was in there, and instantly, like within 24 hours, I sold, like $80 worth of baseball cards and stuff.
Nice.
But this is so. There's more to this though. There's a few things I learned here. Number one is I understand why people sell cards because it's kind of easy, right? If you're able to find good cards, right, in the sense that listing them was pretty easy, taking the pictures. Shipping them out was easy. Like, that's really easy, and it's good profit, right? And the storage level, like, how much storage did it take up, right, for these cards? The other thing I learned, though, is it's a lot of work because if you're going to these units and you're going through these boxes, I spent probably, I want to say a good 6 hours sorting through everything.
Wow.
And I probably threw away 90%. And you're like, Orlando, you threw it away? Yes, because it is trash. Like, there's so many of these cards available. They're never going to go up in value. Especially, I had an existential crisis when I was looking at these because I was looking at basically how unimportant we are in this world when it comes to like the reality of things. I mean, I'm not talking about, outside of religion and everything. I'm just talking about if none of that existed, right? And it was just us humans. Like, we really are worthless. Right, because I'm looking at all these players. Like, I looked through thousands of players. I'm like, these people had cards made after them, and those cards mean absolutely nothing to anybody ever. Yep. How tragic is this?
Yeah, it's like I heard somebody say one time that graveyards are full of indispensable people.
Yeah,
right?
That's true.
Like it is true. People think like you can't. World will never go on without them, and then it just does.
Yeah, and it does. And so I kept, it's funny, out of the 90s, I kept a lot of Barry Bonds, Joe Montana, Mark McGwire, Jose Canseco. But you know how much those cards are worth? $0. Like maybe $2, right? But I kept them in case they pass away one day, and then they'll sell for a little bit more, right? And I know that sounds terrible, but that's just the business. That's what happens, right? And that brings back a lot of memories. When I was a kid, speaking of religion, I was at a Bible study when I was a little kid, and I had all my rookie cards, my Ken Griffey's, my Ben Davis, all these baseball cards. And the Bible leader came up and took my cards because I wasn't supposed to have them out, and I never got them back. So this was kind of like redemption.
He straight up sold them on eBay.
There you go. That's what happened. Well, eBay didn't exist. That was like 1993 or something. So anyways, so I got all those cards back in this haul. Now, here's the catch. amongst these cards, how can I put this? I don't know how much it's worth. It could be worth $700. It could be worth $10,000 because grade is everything, right? So in this, I found a rookie card, a Ricky Henderson rookie card that looked mint. It probably got put in the sleeve right away. And I was scared because I'm looking at this. I'm like, oh man, if I send this in to get graded, I might damage it, taking it out of the sleeve and putting it into a new one, right? Because I can't send it in the top loaders have changed, and you can't use the ones from the 90s. Like, those are trash. So there's that. And then on top of that, there was a 1986 Fleer Michael Jordan. Now, it's not the rookie one, okay? But this one is just as valuable. Well, not just as valuable, it's a little less valuable, but it's up there as far as like the highly collectible Michael Jordans that people are looking for. All right, so this was a 1986 Fleer sticker Michael Jordan rookie card. Okay, so I'm looking right now at recents. Okay, so the most recent one that was graded an 8 sold for $1,100. One that was graded a 9 sold for $3,800. One that was graded a 7 sold for $900. One that was graded a 5 sold for $581. So I actually have this card. And I'm scared to take it out of the loader and put it into another one and send it off to PSA, right? But who knows, right? Who knows? So, by the recording of this podcast, it's already out there. So I'm just speaking in the past tense because I want to, I wanted to see what I get, right? And on PSA, I chose the cheapest option because I don't think it's worth very much. I think it's probably worth like $400 or $500. But with PSA, what I learned is if it ends up grading really high, they just charge you because you get charged more the more expensive your card is. So, anyways,
that kind of sucks because it gives them an incentive to grade cards potentially higher than they're worth, right?
I'm good with that.
A little bit of inflation, grade inflation.
There you go, great inflation. So, ended up being a good haul. I mean, the thing is, I had no idea what I was picking up. That's what's crazy about it. I just started throwing cards in a box. That card I never saw. It was just in one of the random boxes I chose to buy. So, and there was also like an unopened sealed box of Tiger Woods rookie cards from 2001. And here's the dilemma I have. The box alone is worth $400. But if I find a rookie in there and it grades at a 10, it could be worth several thousand. So do Mike and I do a card breaking session and go through all the packs, right? Just to get those clicks? Or do I just sell the box? I don't know what to do, right? So let us know in the comments. Do I break open the box? Do I hold on to the box? Do I just hold on to the box? Do I go put it in a safe deposit box and just let it sit there forever? Right? Is that what I do? Right? And that's the other thing. Like I always want to let people know if you have anything that's valuable in reselling, like really valuable, you should put it in a safe deposit box. Do not keep it in your storage unit. Do not keep it where you live, because you never know. Because I've never done that. I've always made sure it's somewhere else. So anyways, what are your thoughts, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, it's a crazy story. I don't know what I would do if I were you. I mean, obviously getting things graded is pretty cool. I've never done it. I've got a ton of cards. I know what you mean as far as junk cards. I don't do lots of sports cards. I've definitely have been duped as an early new reseller as far as buying boxes of, oh, look at a whole complete set of 1996 tops, whatever. And then you buy it and then you realize like, oh, this sells for $10 on eBay and I paid $15 for it. I lost, right? So I get that, but man, when you do find the ones that are valuable, that's awesome for sure. But yeah, if you want to do a crack-a-pack, man, we can do that. That'd be something else.
I don't know, man. I don't.
I think usually I feel like, I mean, I could be wrong because you have unopened, you said like boosters?
Yeah,
like
it's a whole box.
I feel like, in my opinion, it's more of a gamble to open them. Because, yeah, you're right. Like, if you find something in there, it's worth money. But you tend to sell more. If sports cards are anything like or anything like Magic the Gathering cards or Pokemon cards or anything like that, people are more interested in the possibility that they could have the thing, and so they pay up, right? Like the actual value of the cards inside of most packs might only be like $1 or $2, but the pack might sell for $10-15 because people think it might have that higher thing. So it's almost like you get to be the house wins most of the time, right? Like, yeah, occasionally somebody might hit the jackpot. But if it were me, I think I probably wouldn't crack a pack and start opening up packs unless you had a really good feeling, I guess. I don't know. If you can make money selling them sealed, I feel like you're probably going to make more. But then you have to deal with the thought of, what if I had a rookie or, something in there that's super, mint and gold and worth a ton of money. So I don't know. It's a gamble either way.
Yeah. And another thing I thought about too is what I like is, PSA has the vault, the eBay vault. It used to be eBay's, now it's PSA. So let's say this card gets graded really high. Like, I'm never going to look at it again. Like, I'm just going to keep it at the vault. I think the vault's like somewhere on the East Coast.
But you're going to be paying every month to have it there?
No, I think you don't pay. I don't think so.
There's no way they're holding it for free.
Maybe they do, because maybe they're able to leverage that. They get interest on it based on the value of the items they have in the vault. I don't know. I'll have to look at it. But I was like, that's better. I'd rather have that than having to send it back to me. Like, I'd rather keep it at the vault, and that's what I'm going to end up doing. But I don't think it's worth that much. I think it's maybe worth a few hundred. I'm a big believer. Like, when you think something's worth a lot and usually isn't, it's always when you least expect it that it happens,
Yeah.
So, all right. That's my update. That was a long one. How about you? How's things going for you?
Yeah, I mean, things are going pretty good. It is finally the summer for me. I am out of school, and this is going to be the first summer in a long time that I haven't either done summer school. Last summer I had the move, which was intense. So this is like my first summer of like actually enjoying summer as a teacher. I'm super excited about that. So I got to do a little bit of garage sales and some sourcing even during the week, which was really nice. I woke up, and you know what it's like when your kids start to get old enough that you could take them with you. You've got like two age ranges that are like easy. Like when they're really, really young, it was actually pretty easy for me to like go to thrift stores at least, because I could just put them in there. They stayed in their little car seat. They slept most of the time, easy peasy. Then they get to the age where they want to touch everything. It's awful. Taking them is miserable. But my oldest son, he's getting close. He's like 6.5. He's like getting closer to 7. So he's at that age now where like I can tell him like, okay, don't touch anything. Don't mess with anything. You can look for some toys, and he's going to behave and be okay for most of the time. So I was like, all right, I'm going to get him out of the house. Just take him with me. Give my wife a little bit of a break. But it was actually my middle son that was giving us a hard time that morning. So my wife was like, you have to take him too. And so I'm like, okay, is this going to turn out okay? And it's amazing how just a little trick of I gave them each $1 bill, and I said, while we're at garage sales, you guys can look for something. Nice. You can get anything you want for $1, right? And they were like perfect angels the whole time. And they would like look at stuff and be like, no, I'm going to wait. And it cost me $2 to have them be good and behave. Also to give my wife a break, and they actually had a fun time. Like they've been asking me like, when are we going to do garage sales? When are we going to do garage sales? So it's kind of exciting just to kind of incorporate them a little bit more. But I actually did pretty decent. I went to some garage sales and I did not do a route at all. I've wasted so much time trying to plan routes out here, and maybe 2 or 3 garage sales on Craigslist. But I know there's garage sales all over. And then I check Facebook Marketplace, and they're on there, but it's just such a nightmare trying to use Facebook Marketplace to figure out where they are, when they are. Was this posted 2 weeks ago? I don't know, right? It's a little bit challenging. You got to do so many filters, and then you don't have a map. Like Craigslist is super easy because you can just kind of map an area and say like, oh, I want to find the ones right here. So anyways, I just decided I'm going to just drive the main roads and look for signs. And that's all I did. I drove the main road, and every time I saw a sign that was a garage sale sign, I just followed it. And I actually did really well. I went to kind of the nicer parts of town, found a few things. One of the places I stopped at, the lady was just trying to get rid of everything that she could possibly get rid of for cheap. Unfortunately, she didn't have a lot that I was interested in, but I did pick up like a box of cast iron pans. for $5. Now, some of them are semi-valuable. A lot of like lodges. Unfortunately, none were Griswold. I don't think I'm going to make a ton of money on these. There's maybe 2 or 3 that I'll be able to sell that are going to be, I'll probably net $20 each on. But most of them are just, it would cost more to ship it than it's worth, like someone to buy. So, but the nice thing is I've kind of gotten into restoring some cast iron stuff myself. And so I've been replacing some of my pans over the last couple of months with nicer cast iron, pans and Dutch ovens and things like that. So picked that up for $5. And at that same garage sale, I picked up 2 jackets. I picked up a Snap-On jacket and a Matco jacket for $1 each. And they were in like really good condition, except for when I got home, I realized the Snap-on one, the zipper was broke. Everything else on it looks really good. I still think I should be able to sell that one and make some profit, even with the broken zipper. The Matco one, same.
You should. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'll make money 100%. It's just a matter of how much off am I going to have to go on these because of a broken zipper. But yeah, to pay $1 each on these jackets, they're really good quality jackets. I think I'm going to be able to do pretty well. And then the next garage sale that I went to, or the next one that I picked up some things that were profitable, I picked up a GameCube for $5. Now, It didn't have the power cord. That's the only thing it doesn't have is the power cord. It has 2 controllers. The controllers alone on GameCubes, their original Nintendo GameCube controllers, sell for quite a bit of money. And there was 2 of them plus the GameCube and 5 games. And like 2 of the games were like Lego games, $5. All right. So I know I'm going to be able to sell this. I'm debating right now. Do I buy the power cord and sell it in a bundle like that? Or do I just sell the GameCube as is, no power cord? I see quite a few selling on like that on eBay for around $50 or so. And then sell maybe the controller separately, the game separately. I might part it out that way. That way I'm not buying things to test things than to sell it again, because then that cuts into your profit a little bit. Maybe I make a little bit more, so I end up, by the time I purchase something, wait for it to come, test it, add that to the value of the item. Maybe I make an extra $20 or $30, but it's like, is it worth doing all that? I don't know. We'll see. But man, $5. It's been forever since I have found a GameCube. I don't remember the last time I've seen a GameCube. It's been years. I think I've seen one other one that somebody wanted to charge way too much for, so I just, didn't pick that one up. But yeah, overall, sorry, my computer did something weird there. It was a really successful day to be, out and about. I think it's starting to get really hot here, so I might be losing garage sale season here pretty soon. But the nice thing is I think I found a couple other ways to source, so not too bad. It was exciting. It was cool to be out there with my kids and to make a pretty decent profit off of. The nice thing is I did not spend very much. I feel like those are the nice days. Some days I come home and it's like, yeah, I got a lot of money, but I also spent, several $100. Some days I come home, I think I paid like $15 total, and I probably have $200-$300 worth of profit. Mm-hmm. Those are nice days, right? Because
those are the days I like. I'm not a fan of, you drop, $300 and you're going to make maybe $1,000. Like, that's not bad, but that's $1,000 gross, right? So when it comes down to it, you're making maybe $300-$400. But yeah, if you're spending, did you say 15?
Yeah.
Is that what you said? Yeah. And you're going to make 300. Yeah, that's beautiful.
It might be closer to $250, but like even still $15 day is not bad.
And the stuff you picked up wasn't necessarily boring. Video game stuff sells pretty quick too. Like you said, I part out all the stuff. I hardly ever sell a console completely new, like everything together, unless it's with the box. If it has the original box, then I'll sell it all together. But if it's loose, yeah. Those GameCube controllers, low end $20 a piece, high end depending on which one it is, $40 a piece. So, and the GameCube and the games, yeah, you're golden, man. That was good. All right, anything else going on with you?
No, that was kind of my weekend. I had some other sourcing I did, but I'll bring those up during our random stories.
All right. Hey, before we move on, another way that you can make money is by keeping your money. And one way to do that is by doing your taxes correctly. And one of the ways you can do that is using My Reseller Genie. If you haven't signed up for My Reseller Genie, there is a code, Pure Hustle, all in caps. You can go to the link below. And with that code, you'll get 15% off the first month. And so make sure to sign up for Pure Hustle Podcast. Sign up My Reseller Genie with our code Pure Hustle and get that 15% off the first month. You know, I haven't looked at my taxes yet. I called for an extension, but the beauty of it is I know I can just get on My Reseller Genie, get all that information, give it to my tax person, and I'll be good. So check out My Reseller Genie. All right, random stories. So I'll just start off real quick. Mine's not too long. The first one is, you know, my son right now is trying to get money together for college and everything, and he's starting to sell on eBay. And it just hit me, the learning curve it is to sell on eBay. Like we always say reselling is simple, but it's not easy. I think that's the way we say it. I forget how we exactly put it. But, you know, he had all this inventory he bought like a year ago, and he finally decided to start listing it. And he's like, what do you think about these keywords? And so he did his listing, and he had like commas and everything because he's trying to be grammatically correct. I'm like, you don't need commas. Like, get the commas out of there. He's like, what? Yeah, get the commas out of there. And then, you know, he took all these pictures and everything, and he's like, what should I put in the description? He's like, because there's some wear on these. I'm like, just put, you know, gently used, has some wear, please see pictures, right? And then he's like, what about shipping? What do I do with shipping? Do I do calculated? Do I, you know, what I do? And I was like, oh, you just make up business policies. He's like, what? What are business policies? So I had to take him through setting up business policies, you know. So if he's selling like some Skylanders or anything that's a pound or less, you know, charge $4 to $5. If he's selling anything that can go in a padded, charge $8 to $9. Like, just keep it simple. And I was like, oh man. And then, you know, 2 days passed, and I'm like, hey, have you gotten any, you know, send offers? He's like, what? Send offers? And I was like, yeah, look at. He's like, oh, I didn't know I could do this. And I was like, oh man, like, you know, it's funny because this is my son who, you know, I do a whole podcast on reselling, but obviously doesn't listen to our content, which is fine. But it reminded me of like, there's so much to learn when it comes. This is why we, you know, people sometimes comment that like, you know, we're out of new ideas for the podcast. Yeah, we're out of new ideas possibly, but that's because there's so many old ideas. There is so much to reselling, right? From the sourcing to the listing. Even, you know, he had stuff with price tags on them. And he's like, how do I remove these? Right? So I'm like, well, you can use a sanitizing wipe. He's like, why can't I use the heat gun? And I'm like, well, if you use the heat gun, it's wrapped in plastic and you're going to end up melting the plastic off. So you got to use a Clorox wipe, and the Clorox wipe will allow you to remove it. You know, and then he had books, and in the book, somebody wrote their name. He's like, what do I do with this? And I said, well, you just tell them that, you know, the name has been written inside and just take a picture of it. And it's one of those things where I forget, you know, you've been reselling for so long. And this is probably what happens when you talk to people that have no idea about reselling, and they ask you like, oh, how's eBay going? And you go in this huge, like 15-minute diatribe, and their eyes gloss over and they never talk to you again. Well, that's why, because they have no idea what you're talking about. So that probably doesn't happen to you, but it happens to me a lot. Like, people want to know, and then I explain it, and they're like, ah, cool. And then I never get asked again. Like,
yep.
It's just what happened. So there's that. So that's a random story. And the other one was, you know, a reminder to everyone that even if you sell things for parts or used or broken, people will still return it. I think some people, you know, don't understand that. Like, there are people out there that for a reason do not understand that you're trying to sell it broken. So I had one guy bought a slot car, and I put on there, does not work, and message me back and say, hey, the engine's blown on this. Can I return it? And I was like, yeah, I have free returns, but you knew it was broken. I told you it was broken. And he's like, yeah, but, you know, I thought I could fix it. So he returned it. Now, the good part about it is I resold it, and I even put that the engine was blown on it, and it sold for $20 more. So there's a happy ending. I had a vintage Walkman. Clearly put the tape deck does not spin. It does not work. Somebody bought it. They're like, oh, I bought new rubber bands for it. I did this, I did that. It's still not working. Can I return it? Because in your listing, you said that, you know, the tape deck works. And I messaged back. I'm like, no, I said it doesn't work. I'm selling this 4 parts. They're like, yeah, I've been looking everywhere for the engine for it, but I can't find it. I'm like, well, then return it. It's just one of those things. Like, don't get mad about it. Just realize that people are just people, and they will return things knowing fully well that it's broken already. So that's my 2 random rants. My second was a random rant. All right, your random story.
So my wife and I, when we're driving along the road, occasionally we pass by the Goodwill outlets, and she'll make a comment like, oh, or I'll say like, oh, we should stop in. And it's never a good time. But she goes, I do want to go sometime. I want to see what the outlets are like. So finally today, since I'm off, my youngest took a nap, and I was like, hey, let's go to the outlets. So she's like, yeah, let's do it. And it was mostly just like a fun experience to watch my wife experience the outlets for the first time. Because I've done it. I've been there. I'm by no means an outlet expert. In fact, I'm like an outlet, like still noob. I don't spend a ton of time, digging through clothes or anything. I just kind of look through some hard goods and books every so often and find some things to make some money. But it was kind of cool because as soon as we got there, like within 2 minutes of getting there, they were wheeling out new hard good stuff. And so she's like, I'm trying to explain to her, like, yep, they keep all of them covered until like all 4 bins are out, and then they uncover them all at the same time. And so people are lining up at the bins, but they don't know what's in them yet. And it was just kind of fun watching her like experience it. But we didn't get very many things. We picked up a couple of things. She ended up finding a couple of sweatshirts that we'll be able to sell for quite a bit of money. She has a better feel for quality women's clothing than I do. She can kind of tell right away whether something is higher quality than I can. So she was able to find a few items there. Neither one of us enjoyed digging through clothing, though. I think I would prefer to have gloves on. We didn't have gloves. We just had some hand sanitizer, so it can be a little bit weird. But we found a handful of items there. Maybe make $60-$70 profit off of being there for half hour, 45 minutes. So not great, but also not the end of the world. I mean, if you were able to make $50 an hour consistently, I mean, that's a really decent job, Obviously that doesn't take into account that I've got to now list these items and ship the items out. So it ends up being more time, but it gives you a rough idea. But anyways, we had talked on a previous update episode about that crazy hot deal store. And so I was like, hey, let's go check out one more place. And so as we were driving there, I'm trying to explain to her what I thought it was, especially because we had somebody, I think it was in our comments, it might have been on our Discord, that kind of explained and talked about how they do really well at those Amazon return stores. And it was pretty cool. Like, we went, and I didn't quite understand how the pricing system worked. It seems like this is kind of the general way they work at a lot of the places. I assumed that like the $8 day was like the low day, that meant like you can get whatever you want for $8, but it's actually the opposite. So every day things get cheaper. So they're closed on Thursday for restocking, and then on Friday it's the first day with new inventory. So everything is $8. So that could be good or bad, right? Like, the good thing is you're going to get the best items possible that nobody has seen yet, that you might be able to sell for $50, $100, $200 in profit, and you're only paying $8 for it. The bad news is if there's things that are like, hey, this would be worth picking up for maybe $2 or $3, but not for $8, you kind of have to wait. But then every day the prices get cheaper. Then it goes to $6, then it goes to $4, and it goes to like $2, $1. Today we went, it was $1. Tomorrow will be 50 cents, as the time we're recording this. And then they're closed, and then it goes back up to $8. So anyways, it seems like the $8 day at these stores or whatever their high dollar day is, depending on what store you're at for these Amazon return type stores, the high dollar day is the day that people line up, sometimes the night before or hours and hours in advance to get tickets to get in. And I could see why, because as I'm looking at items, my wife was like, she picked up some sunscreen. It was like closed in the box. The box was a little bit damaged, but the sunscreen hadn't been opened yet or anything. She's like, this is a super expensive brand. And sure enough, like, you go to Walmart and you buy, or Target, I don't even think Walmart sells it. You go to Target or you get it online, it's like $30 a bottle. We picked it up for $1. right? So, and there were tons of boxes of like good stuff, things you could tell. So, I mean, if you knew what you were doing with like car parts, you could tell a lot of like car parts people had bought and returned. So not knowing, okay, like, did they just return the old used one, or is this the new one? And is this a piece that sells? So if you knew what you were doing there, you could probably do really well. But I mean, it was a trip. It was like being at the bins, but with like new stuff, but it's also still kind of junky, but not everything is junky. You know, it was a weird, I hadn't done it yet. I actually think there's a lot of potential there. I think when we first talked about like the Amazon return stores, we were a little bit negative on it. We kind of had like a jaded view of like, I don't think there's any way to make money there. But I think there is. I think we picked up a handful of items that we'll be able to sell for, like I said, we'll probably make, $50, $60, something like that. But we were only in there for 15, 20 minutes because we had to get back home to our kids. But if you were willing to go each day, like get the big item days, maybe wait a couple days, go and get the items, and now they've dropped down in price, I think you could clean house. I think you could do pretty good at the store. And even if it was just buying stuff for yourself, because what we noticed, like one kind of random part of it, my wife bought some travel bags for like makeup and toothbrushes and toothpaste off of Amazon as like one of their higher rated bags. And she bought it, and it was being delivered today. And while we were there, she found the exact same bag.
Interesting.
At the store for $1, right? And she paid like $15 for this bag. And the thing is because it's Amazon returns or those types of returns, you're going to run into a lot of the like popular sold on Amazon stuff. And some of it's junk, but also like you're going to find some things that are potentially valuable or that could just save you money because it would be something you'd buy anyway. So I highly recommend it. If you've got a store like that around you, at least check it out. Maybe try a couple of the different days just to get a feel for what's it like on the high dollar day, what's it like on the lowest day, and go from there.
Yeah, now I'm even more intrigued about the one that's nearby. I might stop there this week and we'll talk about the next update episode. There you go. All right, hey, so wow, we have given an update of updates. So hey, we should just move on to our reseller topics.
Yeah, all right. Let me get that music ready, and here we go. VERO delistings on the rise on eBay. First Sale Doctrine and eBay Recommerce Report. Plus Red Lobster on eBay. All this and more on Reseller News. Rolando, take it away.
All right, so we had spoken in depth in our live episode that dropped a couple days ago. So if you haven't checked that one out, make sure to check that one out about VERO delistings on eBay. How I do think they're on the rise. I think it's all part of the Inform Act too that is causing some of those problems. The Inform Act is where you have to demonstrate where you live and where your business resides and all that. I don't know if I mentioned this last podcast, but my Amazon account actually got deactivated because I had changed my business address and I forgot to inform the government. And so now I have to inform them because of the Inform Act, and Amazon wasn't happy that I didn't change it or whatever. So with Amazon, I had to like put the new address. Then they have to mail out to my P.O. box my new address. And then I get that box, and then I insert a code, and then my Amazon store will be activated again. So yeah, a lot of hoops. But the VERO thing, if you want to catch more about it, I would definitely catch it. I don't think we're going to go too in depth today, just because we don't want to make this a 3-hour episode. But just be aware, the biggest thing we had talked about in the live, how recently Kasich store, I hope I'm saying that right. Former attorney, she sells on eBay, and she had basically all these posts on Instagram how a lot of people that she knew were getting VERO listed because they were selling Johnny Was. And they were selling Johnny Was new with tags, Johnny Was new without tags. And all their listings just got pulled. And it's just crazy how with eBay, we talked about this on the live, how eBay has no trigger for people when they're listing things to know that maybe something might get VERO listed. It just happens. And so, right now, just be careful with Johnny Was. I would say be careful with anything with new tags. Right now, Adidas, they're putting up all these Yeezys on sale now for like 60% off. Like they're bringing Yeezys from, I think, like the early 2010s, like all these Yeezys that they're going to get rid of. I guess they're trying to sell or whatever at one of their Adidas storefronts. And they might pull VEROs on those. Like, we are in the era now that technology is catching up to reselling, and we're seeing I believe the negative effects of it. Some people will say it's positive because it's going to, eliminate counterfeits, and it's going to, bring more integrity to the market. But I think it's going to hurt the small business sellers that they just buy from someone, it's new with tags. Like, imagine if I bought like 20 Johnny Was items, new with tags at a garage sale, and they removed my VERO listings. There's nothing I can do about it, right? I can't produce receipts. You're stuck. So be careful of that. I'm always a big advocate of reselling used items, just because that's very hard to VERO it. Because according to the First Sale Doctrine, there's some exceptions to it. Like, First Sale Doctrine is basically like, once you buy something from someone, it is now yours and you can sell it. The exceptions to it is if you alter in a way where it's not in the condition that the original owner had intended it to be, right? So easy example is like, people always warn that, if you don't take Harley Davidson and turn them into like tank tops and stuff and try to sell them like they're new or whatever, because people do that. I forget what it's called. There's a name for that, because that could get you in trouble. It hasn't gotten people in trouble because of Harley, but Patagonia doesn't like people doing stuff like that. The other exception is on Amazon, you get in trouble because you can't sell the warranty that the new item comes with.
Right.
And so they'll delist the item for you on Amazon because Amazon wants to be careful. Now, the one thing
I understand that to an extent too, right? Like if you're buying an item and you're buying something new and you've got no idea that you all of a sudden now can't register and get the warranty from it. Now, probably 9 times out of 10, it's not going to matter because as soon as you open something, you're going to be able to, scan the barcode and put in your name and register. But some items might want the receipt too. And so if your receipt is an eBay receipt, you're like, oh yeah, I bought this whatever tool or I bought this, electronic device and here's my receipt from it. And now you paid probably pretty close to what you would have paid if you bought it from a dealer, as it were, a certified dealer of that item. But now you can't register it. You don't get the updates on the items. You don't get to any of the warranties. I could see why people would be upset with that. So it does create this gray area, of how do you, and maybe that's something eBay needs to adjust too. Is it another category that we sell in that shows that this is still new in box, it's unopened, but potentially warranty void? I mean, I don't know.
Well, at least on Amazon, like it'll tell you that you can't sell this item as new. Like you have to sell it as like new. Like it would be nice if eBay had something like that, right? If it's something that is highly VERO'd, would show up as like, hey, be aware, blah blah. Like I think eBay has a responsibility to do that. I really do. I think eBay has a responsibility to stand up for sellers. I mean, this is what they do. They're the middleman. They're the ones that want us to do this. But when people's listings get taken down, you can kind of appeal it. But from everyone I've spoken to, it's not worth it. You end up losing anyways with eBay. And, not to say that used stuff doesn't get pulled. I had San Diego Ford vintage corduroy hat VERO'd. It's like, what? Like, who in Ford found this hat and why this hat?
Yeah, I still have a paper towel dispenser, an automatic paper towel dispenser that's new in box. I got it at a trade show, and I can't sell it on eBay. They've pulled it off. They said I got VERO'd for it, and I'm like, man, seriously? Like, this is a good product. It's brand new. It's in the box. Never been opened. Like, why can't I sell this thing? It's really annoying.
Yeah, I think eBay needs to do something about this stuff. All right. So eBay came out with its Recommerce Report, which I didn't know that they did these things. Maybe they did, because I know OfferUp does one. I know ThreadUp does one. I didn't know that eBay did one. And just some interesting numbers here. Just want to discuss real quick, which I thought was kind of interesting. Now, eBay's kind of, I'm trying to say this because people will judge me for being political or whatever. So Mike's already in his head. He's like, what are you going to say, Orlando? So I feel that eBay is trying to kind of satisfy the sustainability crowd. Like they don't care about the capitalist crowd, the crowd that's just like, hey, we're trying to sell this and we're trying to make money, right? They're trying to sell the other side of it. The, hey, we're doing all this because we're good people and it's good for the environment, and kind of like discounting the fact that a lot of people are just doing this because they want to make money. I would say 90% of people that sell on eBay are just trying to make money. At least I think most of our listeners are, right? Because it was interesting. This whole report, they prioritize a lot of things about pre-love, but I want to look at the money making aspects of it. They said 62% of people that are buying used goods on eBay are buying it to save money, right? So what does that tell you? Well, that tells you that people are going to be looking for more deals, right? That people are going to be looking for cheaper price, and that's what people look for on eBay. Right. I think if this number was lower, I think if people were more of like, oh, maybe 30% are trying to save money. And then the other number was, 60% were trying to find a specific item that they're unable to find. Then I think it'd be more like, hey, right now it's a seller's market. But that 60% of people are trying to save money. That tells me it's definitely a buyer's market, which we've known for a long time. Now, this other number I found even two other numbers I found interesting. Another one was on eBay globally, the number of sold clothing, shoes, and accessories with thrifted in the description increased by over 400% in March of 2024 in comparison to March 2023.
Now, again, so percentages like that can be a little bit deceiving because it's like, okay, an increase of 400%. So 100 items sold with a thrifted title before and now 400 items. You know what I mean? So like, I want to know like specifically percentage of items that are selling that are used have that tag in there and how much has that increased, because it could be possible that's a buzzword that we should be using, right? Like I have found that's
what I thought. Like I have thrifted. Who puts thrifted?
I have found that certain buzzwords at certain times of the year, like adding Mother's Day or Father's Day or certain things in a title, like temporarily can potentially help get you some looks, views on an item because people are looking for something specific. But yeah, so if that is true, like if there's a ton of people who are prioritizing thrifted items, then yeah, I mean, let's add that to our titles. But again, it's like they can use that number. Like there's been an increase of 400% of items sold with that tag. And it's like, but what percentage of the items sold on eBay have that tag in the first place? Because if it's only 1% of items on eBay that are clothing have that tag, then a 400% increase is still nothing.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting. I've never thought about putting the word thrifted in my title or description or anywhere. Right? I generally don't want people to know that I picked something at a thrift store.
Yeah, I mean, I've had people say like, because back in my early days, I would not always like get rid of the marks on the bottom of shoes, like where they'll like write, 9R or whatever, because it was like the red tag and $9. And people would say like, you're charging this amount, like you clearly only paid $7 for that. I see the price on the bottom.
Yeah, I think people just don't care now. Now, obviously, you should try to mark it out, but I don't think it's the same. Like I would say years ago, like people, would be bothered by that. Now, if a lot of people are looking at thrifted things, they know that you obviously paid less at a thrift store for it, and they want that item, right? Here's the other number, which was fascinating to me. So do you remember, what was the number we always throw around of what percentage of eBay is used items? Do you remember that percentage?
I don't know the number off my head.
Okay, so the number used to be 20%, right? It was like 20% was used items, 80% was new items. In this Recommerce report, it said pre-loved and refurbished. Now, they threw in refurbished, so I don't know how much this skews the number, okay? Pre-loved and refurbished makes up 40% of eBay's gross merchandise volume. So that means 40% of items that are sold on eBay now are used or refurbished. That's huge. That's a 20% gain. Now, if we removed refurbished, would it still be 20%? Maybe. But that tells me there's a lot more competition on eBay now than ever before in the used market, right? So maybe this is why a lot of people are struggling, because things have changed. Because for years, I mean, I would say eBay opened maybe 2 years ago, they said it was 20%. So now if we're at 40%, we're talking about millions of more people that are now selling on eBay used items. So I thought that was pretty fascinating. And that's pretty much. I mean, there's a lot of other stuff in there. You know, there was one that said 50% of new sellers report that they saw an increase in their selling from 1 to 5 years. 58% of Gen Z are doing it more. 51% millennials. 79% of global sellers surveyed got their start on eBay by selling pre-loved goods. So eBay is still king when it comes to this new word now called pre-loved, not used, right? Pre-loved. Okay. And so just be aware that eBay is still the place, but you know, depending on what you sell, it could be uber competitive. So that is the eBay Recommerce Report.
Pre-loved. That kind of sounds like what's the condition you put on a lot of your items?
Oh, gently used.
Is that?
Or no, used but not abused.
Used but not abused. You should just put pre-loved. That should be your new one. Pre-loved, used but not abused.
There you go. Yeah, you know what? Maybe I will put pre-loved. Maybe that'll be the new thing. All right. I wanted to share this story.
Pre-loved.
Gently pre-loved. I'm trying to. No, I'm not. You know, we could do word salad all day with these, but we're just gonna leave it alone. All right. So this is from TMZ, you know, that reputable source out there. TMZ says Red Lobster merch hits eBay amid bankruptcy. Right? So I'm like, oh, that's crazy.
That's another sad one, man.
It is. Cheddar Bay biscuits gone. Like, but did you hear? Like, there's two theories on it, right? The one theory was because the endless shrimp caused the money to fall apart, like because they lost so much money because of endless shrimp, right? Then the other one I heard was that a hedge fund got a hold of it. They made them sell some properties. Then they had to like lease them. They couldn't afford it, and now they're done.
I'm sure it's something more like that. I mean, most of those places, like I'm pretty sure Red Lobster, most of those, even the ones that are closing and the ones that are open, they make most of their money off alcohol anyway. So it's not even the food. It's can they get people in there? And the hard part is Red Lobster is kind of overpriced for what it is. It's fancy, but it's not really fancy. But so yeah, it's just tough. I feel like
it depends how much money you're making, you know. When I was broke back in the day, like, you know, when I was, you know, first kid and everything, like it was fancy.
No, yeah, but that's
like,
the thing though.
Like we went out to eat when we went to Red Lobster.
You're right, but again though, like if you wanted to go and get good seafood, you're paying for good seafood at Red Lobster, and it's like okay seafood. Like you could go to a small hole in the wall seafood place and get better seafood at a better price. So
I just don't want to take away from. I just don't want to take away. I think Red Lobster is.
I do. Good. I like Red Lobster. I that was one of my wife's favorite. We used to love going and getting them biscuits and I will miss Red Lobster. I'm not surprised that they've got some items ending up on eBay. I think it's like anything. Okay. You know, when there's a big change, whether it's somebody has passed away or a company is closing or a company is now in the news or a sports player is in the news for some kind of conflict or whatever it is, controversy, there's going to be an increase in those items going up. I mean, remember it wasn't that long ago we were talking about the 99 cent only stores, right? And people being upset about that. And so it's hard because there's going to be nostalgia there. I don't think every Red Lobster is closing. I could be wrong. At least the last I heard, there's still some that are staying open. But
well, the catch to all this is that I wanted to see how real this was. So I went to eBay and I typed in Red Lobster. So there's all kinds of listings. Like I'm looking at it right now, and there's plates. There's Cheddar Bay biscuit boxes. There's pool table Red Lobster balls. There's chains, necklaces, like cups, glasses, all this stuff. But then when I click on sold, how much of that do you think sold?
Less than 1%.
Yeah, there's like nothing. Like it's not like a J. Crew, which isn't even a Red Lobster shirt. Maybe it's a employee shirt or something. But yeah, like a keychain, like nothing.
Here's what's gonna happen. I think like obviously there's going to be a spike of initial interest in Red Lobster stuff, right? Like there's going to be a ton of stuff listed. People are going to go and start buying some things if they start closing up. But then it's going to become like Blockbuster, right? Where maybe 10 years down the road, if Red Lobster's closed permanently and they don't reopen, then some of those items will all of a sudden start creeping back up in value because it becomes that like vintage, rare thing of like, hey, look, I remember going to Red Lobster. That was my grandma's place we ate at. So I'm going to buy a Red Lobster, another decoration in the house.
Speaking of that, when Toys R Us was shutting down, I bought 300 Jeffrey the Giraffe plushes for like $3 a piece, like $900, thinking Toys R Us was done for. Like, these are going to be worth a lot of money. Nope.
How dare they reopen?
Because they're reopened now. Now, I will say over Christmas, I sold a lot of them. I think they were good stocking stuffers. So I sold a lot of them for like $20-$30 a piece. So you gotta be really careful, right? Maybe Red Lobster gets bought out by somebody and it becomes super Red Lobster, right? And it becomes incredible source.
Even redder lobster.
Even redder lobster. Hey, before we move on yet, if you have not had a chance to, support us here on the podcast, because there is an ebb and flow to the podcast as far as our finances. There's sometimes we get brand deals and we're flying high, and there's times that we get good ads, and there's moments where we're just doing the podcast for free. And you know what? There's a lot of work put into this, and the awesome group that continues to help us out on Patreon, we're very grateful for. And if you'd like to join that group, just go down below, patreon.com/podcast for $5.55 a month. You can support us, and maybe we'll get to a place that we get enough supporters that we can start dropping 2 episodes a week, which we would love to do. And on top of that, you get to be part of the Discord by joining our Patreon. And as always, you can find us PureSoul Cast on all socials, PureSoul Podcast on all socials, PureSoul Cast on X, and you could always give us a call, 619-738-1170. Shoot us an email at puresoulpodcast@gmail.com. Grateful for all of you that listen. If you haven't yet, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to our channel, hit that bell notification, and as always, thankful for all the iTunes reviews. All right. What are some things we need to be looking out for here, Mike?
Bolo.
What's your bolo?
All right, so I'm going to kick it back to the beginning of the episode. I think everybody knows Snap-on. I didn't grow up big into tools and do-it-yourself stuff, and so, but even still, I knew Snap-on. Like that's a brand. I feel like people who aren't necessarily tool resellers, if they see Snap-on, they might be willing to look it up. But I'm mentioning also getting a Matco jacket, and that was a brand that now I know is very popular, very, very valuable. But I didn't know that until I started reselling and started learning about reselling tools. I even have a YouTube video I created about reselling used tools. But I just want to throw that back on people's minds, is if you were like me growing up and maybe you knew Snap-on, but you didn't know other brands, you didn't know Matco was a brand that was valuable, just pay attention to that. Not just the tools themselves, but even memorabilia, clocks, gadgets, jackets can be very valuable.
No, I agree. And yeah, obviously do your research, but I find that stuff still sells for good money, depending on what it is. I've mentioned this so many times, but right now I'm pretty much selling one a day of baseball mitts. And the reason I want to share with you baseball mitts is some of you don't even look at baseball mitts. But here's the thing about baseball mitts. Number one, you can always pretty much, unless somebody really wants to get top money for them, you can get them for pretty cheap, right? From $1 all the way to maybe even $20 for like a $300 glove. I had a garage sale, sometimes at the thrift store, maybe at the bins. And then second, they're pretty easy to identify. They usually have some kind of identification number, right? You put in the brand, and then you put in that number that's on the inside of the mitt. The other thing is that there's not really much damage to them. Like, they're all broken in, right? So unless they're like flaking or there's some terrible wear on it, like, people still want them, and they want them broken in. The other one, it's easy to ship. I ship all of mine padded priority. And people just pay, and I just get the glove, slip it in there, put the tape, and it's good to go. So check out baseball mitts. Right now, they're good sellers, especially as we're approaching summer. So definitely keep an eye out for baseball mitts. All right, Mike, what are you looking forward to here?
So I've got a vacation coming up. I'm really excited about that. I hate putting my eBay store on a longer handling time, but I still get sales, so it'll work. And then finally, when I get back from my vacation, I'm going to be installing the mini split out here in the garage. Nice. And I will have a nice air conditioned unit in my garage. So my gym / reselling room / podcast room will stay a nice temperature. Right now it is super hot, and we haven't even reached the summer yet. So I am looking forward to that. What about you, Orlando?
So I think I'm going to limit my sourcing right now to just garage sales, just because everything is disorganized right now in my place. I haven't shared this on the podcast, but I shared it on social. Like, I got really sick a week or two ago, I think for like a week. And so like I had all the stuff that I had sourced, and I never put it anywhere. It just sat around. On top of that, I had mentioned I had flooding months ago, and I still got like a couple rooms I need to organize, and so I'm just like, man, I got too much stuff everywhere. Like I need to get organized, and so I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to more local deals. I have found that lately I've not been really looking for local deals, and so that's one of the places I think you make more money because you end up doing a lot of private picks, right? You show up. There's a couple items, and then you go, hey, do you have any more of this stuff? And then they're like, oh, yeah, we have all this over here that they never thought about selling, and you can get at a really great price point. I'm hoping that the baseball hall people call me back. Like, I really want them to call me back. I think I may make an offer for all of it. I just, again, I need to look through the rest of the boxes. Because, here's the thing. You can get something for really cheap, but if you're spending 20 hours going through all of it, and you're only like doubling that money, it's just not worth picking up, right? So I'm looking at that. And then the other thing is just getting back on a schedule. This month was a crazy, crazy month family-wise. And so, my listing was all over the place. I was shipping, when I can. It's another reason probably my eBay sales were down, was just I wasn't being consistent on any of those things. And so I'm just looking, and I know it's summer, right? But I find that summer is a time that I can catch up on things. And so, yeah, I'm just looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to eBay rebounding now as my store is back to where it was before, changing all my ads. So hopefully, hey, this episode had a lot of content, even from just Mike and I just documenting what we've been through. Hopefully it's allowed you to think about what you're doing, how you can change, how you can make things better and learn from our mistakes. And appreciate everyone consistently tuning in. And with that being said, make sure to be real.
Be relevant.
And be reselling. Late.
Peace.